Jonathan, welcome to my little program.
Hello, Lucy. Happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. Well, first let's do a little intro for those who do not know who you are and what you do. Those crazy
Yes,
folks.
I've
Tell
kept it
us
a
who
big
you are and what you
secret for so many years, and I'm finally to be able to unburden myself. No, I'm the chief legal officer at a company called Esusu, which helps people with financial wellness by allowing their on-time rental payments to be reported to the credit bureaus to build and establish their credit, among other things. We're building a lot of new features and functionality now. It's a mission-based for-profit company, and we're Series C. And so this is my fifth GC job. I spent the first 20 years or so in-house as a GC at online travel companies like Travelocity and Fareportal, which is cheap, otherwise known as Cheapo Air. And I switched to fintech about 10 years ago. And so it's been an interesting time, mostly venture-backed startups. It's been my experience. And before that, almost 10 years at law firms like Mofo and Cadwalader and all that stuff.
Quite the resume. All right. Well, I know you know a thing or two about in-house life, and my favorite pain point that every in-house lawyer seems to have, and that's those pesky contracts. So you've been pretty involved and vocal with the growing online communities and LinkedIn. I think post COVID is certainly a kind of a place for people to share and care and kind of help commercial lawyers get through this tidal wave, never ending of contracts. So
absolutely.
Let me start with hot takes from JP. That's you on legal tech and contracting. Is it here? Is it solving your problems? Is it techno magical? Tell me some unfiltered thoughts on what legal tech's been doing for you.
Well, I would say it's a mixed bag. It hasn't fulfilled its promise yet. I'm hopeful that within my career, we will see some significant ease of use that really comes together. But I think what we've seen so far has been amazing and has solved some pain points, but really hasn't. We don't have that holistic solution yet that I think we're looking for. When I first started, we were losing contract. They were on a G drive, or they were on maybe even before G drive, they were on a server, in folders, and you had to have naming conventions, and you couldn't find anything. So we're a long way from that. Now we have CLMs. I've used. I don't know if we mentioned names on the show, but I've had experience with Link Squares, Spot Draft.
Okay.
And now we have AI tools like GCAI and various others. I think what we're missing, though, is kind of the real integration between those. The way I look at AI on CLM providers today, it's kind of like that nav system that you got in your car when you bought a car back in the mid 90s, and you say, wow, I can have a nav system in my car. But your car is going to be around for 10 years. How often is that nav system going to be upgraded? And as we all know, things take a while in cars to get updated. And after 2 or 3 years, you had that Garmin on your dashboard with the beanbag, and then within a year or two after that, we're all on our phones. And so I don't really want my CLM to be coming up with their own AI systems. I want them to let me use mine and let it be integrated easily without charging me extra. That's what's going to drive value for them and keep me sticky, because I can upgrade my tech and still have all my documents there and my workflows there, which is what they help us do, at least until AI gets sophisticated enough to do all of it, right?
Yeah. Okay, so you're piecing together CLM tech and standalone AI solutioning, it sounds like to me.
Yep.
You're kind of managing that. Let me ask you this question. I love your analogy about the navigation system. Next, you're like, in theory, it should work. It kind of looked right, but then did you update the DVD or the CD we're going to send you for $250 if you actually want to know how to get to where you need to go? But otherwise, the system looks great. I love that analogy. there's a big debate, obviously, is CLM dead, blah, blah, whatever. Contract lifecycle management is going to continue to be an issue and a problem, whether you call a piece of technology, CLM tech or not. How are you thinking about it when you think back about the pain points you have in the tech that you're using now? Like when you say there's no one solution solve the whole thing, like what is that? Is it the workflow? Is it the data extraction? Is it
Yeah.
what is it?
So there's we're I've always been at a relatively small shop, right? And a lot of what we end up doing because we don't have leverage or because we're creating completely new business models and negotiating them real time as we do the deals. There's a lot of very, very bespoke contracts that we have to work on. So workflows and CLM are a limited use in that, in the sense that you don't really have repetitive work. Maybe you have an NDA that you send out on a regular basis, but we do have parts of our business that do lend themselves to that. We have standard order forms, and the workflows can be configured, but that's a difficult process in a lot of these CLMs. Still, it's not intuitive. Sometimes you have to pay to have them set up the workflows. They inevitably need tweaking. Our recent onboarding, it took a good 2 months. Great help, but very manual, very time consuming, and only very small use case. These type of order forms. Anything that departs from that, you got to kind of upload third-party paper. You have to customize. You have to format. And that part of it is hard to automate at this point, especially like in a way that the business teams can automatically do it. Like in the particular use case I was talking about with the order forms, stuff gets pulled out of Salesforce, automatically gets populated into the document, it gets rolled out, it can be sent out without legal review if there are no changes, and then we only get involved later. That's great. But like the ability, that I see, that I'm looking down the road of agentic AI, the ability to just automatically intake that, know how to do an initial red line or pull in the information from various sources and populate it. That's the dream. That's where we want to go. And then it doesn't really matter, like you said, sadly for CLM companies, it doesn't really matter at that point where the documents are stored, because the AI has the knowledge and the transparency and can find things for you and can and answer your questions about your contracts. And it's all integrated. That's the future we're looking for. And so far, we kind of have bifurcation between CLM companies that are not really doing AI that great, and then AI companies that are trying to be CLMs but are not quite there yet. And so for me, right now, for the next couple of years, what I want to see from these companies is let us work with the tools we want in the platforms we want and make it work the way we want it to work. And then you'll learn from us what we need, and maybe you will be the first to build something that really solves all of our problems.
Yeah. And I mean, I love the message here is still you need the domain expertise. You cannot build a system unless you've lived and breathed in-house counsel life of contracting. And I think that I'm seeing I'm going to say I have a hopeful trend. I'm like willing this trend. And I think we're seeing it with really more of these legal tech companies are bringing in domain experts inside. They're appreciating that it's going to be okay to show a few more humans that aren't just engineers and marketers on their P&L list, because the pressure from VCs has always been SaaS, your SaaS companies. We don't want to see a bunch of humans and labor costs. But I think we're seeing a shift. I think they're actually starting to sell humans in the loop as a feature, which used to be a sturdy secret hidden. Yeah. So I'm hoping they're gonna get there. You've mentioned, and you've had kind of like early success with, let's say like a legal generalist solution, which is GCAI, and then you've got the CLM tech companies that you've experimented with at least a couple that you've mentioned. Tell me, how are you perceiving the Legora Harvey feud versus GCAI versus Claude for Legal? It right. just feels like right now it's all a frenzy, and I'm asked this question regularly, and I'm really the first to say nobody knows yet who's gonna win.
Yeah.
But I'd love to know from you, how much time do you have to take to explore even an experiment?
Yeah, it's really hard. So I think a lot of the answer to this question depends on what type of a person you are. Like I'm relatively tech savvy, but I consider myself a power user. I'm the one who knows all the features and functionality of every part of Word and knows how to tweak things and fix the formatting of the failed,
Yeah.
Word formatting system that we all are so familiar with. I know how to
Yeah.
power use that, but I'm ultimately, I hate to say this to you, Lucy, I'm ultimately an Apple guy, right? I just want it to work, and I don't want to have that much tweaking to do. I want it to know what I want and work for me. I have friends who are even more techie than I am, who are Android people, right? I call them Android people. Android
Yep.
people like features and functionality. They like to tweak it exactly the way they want it. They like to build it. They like to integrate it. They like to run their own things on their own. I'm not that person, right? I don't have time for that. So for me, having an all-in solution like Spellbook, GCAI, or what's the other one I'm thinking of? But anyway, there are plenty of them where they're figuring out which model works best for these tasks. What things do we have to do behind the scenes to filter the LLM to make it more useful for an in-house
Yeah.
counsel? Um, how do we, provide a Word plugin so that they can use the tools they want, and it's all part of the same system? That's what I like. I certainly understand those who like the Claude stuff and want to build that kind of stuff. My friend Gabe Meister, who
Yeah.
is playing with that all the time. And Kevin Keller is building his own things. There are plenty of people like that. I don't have time
Yeah.
for that. I will pay extra for that
Yeah.
curated experience with AI. Because I know those people are constantly thinking about it and constantly figuring out how to make it better. And they'll get there. They may not have every feature that everybody else has, and they're going to be under price pressure. But at the same time, I want that curated experience. So for me, that's good. I think of, again, unfairly or unfairly, I think of Harvey and that thing in more of a law firm product. So maybe I'm wrong about that, but some of this stuff I don't pay attention to because it seems to be at a higher price point and it's designed for more law firms and small legal departments.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you are tech savvy, and what I would put on this kind of the spectrum of lawyers I'm in touch with, most are very far from where you are, and yet
Right.
you're still you're still saying, yes, I'm tech savvy, but I still want to curate it. Like, don't make me over tinker, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I think, and tell me what you're thinking. You're amongst this community as well. Where do you see your peers? How are they faring? If you're a tech savvy lawyer, how are your peers faring in this whole debate?
Yeah. Well, as a tech lawyer in Tech GC L Suite, a lot of the people I come into contact with are fairly tech savvy. But I have gone to events where folks are like, "Oh, I haven't even looked at AI yet. I don't even want to do it, or whatever." So there are, I'm sure, plenty of lawyers who are just intimidated by this whole thing and just don't see how it's going to add value to them. I'm a daily power user already. Like as soon as this thing came down, I saw the potential. I understand the limits of it. I understand. I'm experienced enough to not take it, the output as given, and I have to work with
Right.
it and tweak it and iterate, but it's a time saver, and that's
Yeah.
of huge value. It really helps to keep things moving quickly, and flag things that I may or may not have flagged on my own, even with 25 years of experience. Still surprises me with things, and I still call its bluff on some stuff as well. It gets it wrong quite a
For
few
sure.
times, so you can't just rely. But yeah, I think I would agree with you that I'm fairly early adopter on this stuff, but
Yeah.
the curated idea versus the getting into the weeds is, how does that save me time?
Right. Right. Yeah, so where would you advise those, the peers and the friends you have that are going, I don't want to deal with this stuff. I don't know how you do it, Jonathan. I'm just keep doing things with my red pen and my yellow notepad. But they're going to eventually feel the pressure. So you as a friend, what would you advise them?
Yeah, I mean, talk to your peers, go to events and ask people what they're using and go with the consensus choice. I mean, because if other folks are experimenting with it and they can give you their views, it's probably going to be similar to what you're going to need it for. And it's really not that hard if you use one of these solutions to experiment with it and start doing it. If the issue is budgetary, which is some people I've heard complain about that, like I can't get my company to pay for it. I mean,
Yeah.
you probably have tools that will be completely eliminated by a tool like these general purpose AI tools. You're I hate to name names, but there are, research informed companies that you probably have. There's legal research companies that you probably will not. I mean, there are companies that I've stopped using entirely. And the first thing I did when wanted to get the budget for this is I figured out ways to get rid of things and actually save money
Yeah.
and have the latest thing. So I would do it
Wow.
and just jump in, and you'll find that you get used to it pretty quickly.
I always say also suggest, start it with something that's low risk. Don't actually have it do your legal work yet, but have it summarize something for you, even an article. All these
Yeah,
long articles. Who got patience and time to read? Are you kidding? I'm like, tell me the top things I need to know from this survey. God bless it. Somebody paid millions of dollars
right,
to do it. I'm going to extract my nuggets, and it'll take me 15 seconds as opposed to reading. So I try to
right.
give them like just actionable, low risk, just so they can get comfortable. Because once you see the value, it's a little hard to do without. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, and many companies, like you may have, if you're a G Suite user, for example, I hate to use the Google word with you again, but if you use it, you may have a Gemini subscription that's a corporate, in-house subscription as part of your G Suite subscription. So you can start with that. If you have Microsoft, you may have Copilot built in. So start with that. It's not a legal tool, and it may not have all the optimizations that you would want as an in-house lawyer, but it'll give you that ability to summarize things or prepare. You can have it like you have an agreement with 10 amendments and you want to do an amended restated version. It can help you like incorporate all those amendments in and spit out the thing. I mean, that saves you time. Or
That's
just
right.
a summary for your own purposes. So you know what the deal is after all these years. So yeah, there's lots that you can experiment on and just get up to speed with. Just
Yeah.
using tools that your company may already have. We have Glean as well.
I've
Uh,
heard great things about Glean. I haven't played with it myself, but I hear
yeah,
about it now every lots of people I've spoken with. So tell me, so what is your AI stack? Like, what are all your? I mean, name names. Who cares? Whatever. This
yeah.
is
So
sponsored anyway. So what do you
we use a
use?
Glean subscription to GCAI.
You
Which is of course the website, and it comes with the Word plugin as well.
got it.
We have Gemini as part of our corporate G Suite. We have Glean, which really is mostly optimized for finding information, and it's connected to Slack and email and all the documents. And so if you're looking for something, you want to know an answer, or just you're getting ready for your quarterly report, and you want to know all the things you worked on the last quarter, you can run agents that tell you, oh yeah, you worked on all these things. And like, that's right, I did. So we use it for that sort of stuff. It's not as great as a general research tool as some things, but it does have its help. Its usefulness. We have a vendor called Vendor, Vendr, which is beloved by our IT department because it has permissions and reviews, does vendor contract management. That has a customized AI as part of its offering. I can't remember the name of it, but it's another one of these clever names that relates to vendor contract. But
Okay.
that tool has information about helping you negotiate your vendor contracts. Like it'll tell you what the vendor has, because it has like information about all the companies that are using it, and it can help you with like what the terms that they'll push on, or whether the agreement you have is where how you should approach the negotiation, and
Right.
what points you can push on. So there are these single purpose or useful tools that are all over the place, and that's basically the lion's share of it.
Yeah. And you, well, I guess what's interesting is that, so again, people who are newer going, oh my God, he just listed all these names. I don't even know where to start. I still love my email on my Slack or Teams or whatever. But I think the best tip that I also love to always say is whatever you have already today, use that. Make sure if you're going to
Mm,
test anything, you're experimenting in a licensed version, right? So if you
right,
have
right,
your Microsoft shop, use Copilot. If you're a Google shop, use
right.
Gemini.
You'll be
Great.
fine.
I would also go so far as to say if you have trouble getting, your company to pay for anything, just pay $20 a month for a couple of months to play with either of those two licensed products that can fit neatly into your stack. It just feels like sometimes
Absolutely.
you're going to have to do this as a professional growth investment because it's here to
Yeah,
stay. So, let's talk about that for a second. I mean, there's
that's
a
right.
lot of frenzy in the legal press, right? It's AI's coming for a job, and lawyers are going to do away. I love all the reports. Those are my favorite. So and so said 86% of all legal jobs are going to blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't. nobody knows right now. Nobody knows. So I want to hear Jonathan, Jonathan's point of view on what is going to happen to commercial counsel roles in
Yeah,
financial.
I mean, it does do, it's going to get pretty good if it isn't already at basic, document review, doing diligence and pre-litigation screening. I mean, I think the technology is going to really, um, those nights when you would be up all night reading, diligence documents and summarizing them. I mean, those jobs, nobody likes those jobs, but that's a lot of what junior associates and paralegals did in big corporate law firms when I was coming up. So yeah, there is less of a need for that kind of grunt work, build out at $500 to $700 an hour. But for every savings you're getting from that, the partners seem to just want to raise their hourly rates because they want to. It's like, oh, now I'm the expert. I don't have as many associates, so my model has to be I charge twice as much. So it's unclear to me what model will end up dominating, but I do think that there's always going to have to be people with judgment and the ability to make decisions, because every deal is different, right? There's no way for the AI to know like how much. I mean, it can ask you how much leverage you have, I suppose, and but even a playbook, does, can differ depending on whether you're dealing with Microsoft or whether you're dealing with Joe
That's right.
Schmo startup that just started, and you're always going to have to make decisions, and nobody's going to pay attention to those details except lawyers.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about what I still think is, what I see often is the core underlying all. It doesn't matter what tech you have. Forget AI. It doesn't matter if you aren't clear on your own risk tolerance. So I
Right.
still have meet a lot of lawyers who want to review every contract their company does. And I mean, see, they
Yeah.
use literally the word every. To which I first respond, do you really think they're sending you every contract they do? Let's not pretend that the entire universe of contracts is actually coming to you. But even the fact that they start with that premise, that they are there to review every contract, either the CEO wants me to, or I need to. The businesses, no, they can't be trusted. I mean, I've heard it all. And my job, I mean, that's why people call me, is I get pushed back. I mean, my job is to say, but why? But really? But let's talk about NDAs. But why? Like I really push that. So give me a little bit about what you've learned over your 25 years. Smart risk taking. How do you draw the
Yeah.
line? What do you figure it out? Whose job is it to decide? Is it just the legal teams? What about the rest of the C-suite? So give me your thoughts.
It's a great point, and I've struggled to agree with you on this. I've heard you say this before, and I struggle with it because for two reasons. One is that I find that people, well, number one, let's be honest. 99% of the time, commercial contracts don't end up in a dispute, and if they do end up in a dispute, it's resolved from a business to business
Negotiate.
discussion, not litigation, right? So you have to make the assumption that there's not a tremendous legal risk for every contract. However, I think a good legal department can, especially with these AI tools, do a pass on almost everything. And I say NDAs. I'm one of the outliers who does say I'd like to review NDAs because there is no standardization. I've seen such terrible NDAs come through from big companies who just don't even know what they're doing. And you know, I have a very good track record of getting them whipped up into shape very quickly. So I feel like it can be done. But yes, if obviously if you're a big company and you have the resources to deal with problems, you might be able to take more risk. If you're a startup and you're hiring contractors and nobody's reviewing the contract agreements and you don't own the IP, or if there's an NDA that comes in and it has provisions that are non-standard that basically mean you don't that they can screw you over, you could be into trouble. So I think having these AI tools makes the argument even stronger for at least running them through and taking a look. Um,
Wait, can
so
I
I
ask you a question?
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
so what about you? What about bringing in an AI tool that you trust and then handing off to the business to use the AI tool to review some subset of contracts? So now you're
At
like, I
some
trust
point,
the AI tool.
yeah,
I've trained it. I like it. Here
yeah.
you go.
I don't
Sales.
like that very much, to be honest, because I feel like the AI tools need moderation, and sometimes they get it wrong, and it's like it's embarrassing. So you send something out that like completely that doesn't make any sense, and that just creates friction. So I don't feel like. Plus, these cases are coming down now where the interaction between the business and the AI tool on legal matters is not privileged. So I don't really want them using AI tools for legal business at all.
But do they?
But
But
look,
do they? Do you know if they do? Do we know that they're not doing it? Because I
we
had this
have
conversation
had, yeah.
yesterday. I had a room full of I was at a conference. It was a room full of GCs, and then afterwards at the dinner, we were having. I did a two truths and a lie thing, 10 minutes on two truths and a lie about legal tech. And one of the things we talked about later in the dinner was, my analogy is always if you're gonna have your teenager's gonna have a party in your house in the basement, and you're gonna tell them all the things they're not allowed to do. Isn't that really what we're saying when we're like, I don't want the business using AI to review contracts? But aren't they? I mean, aren't they doing it anyway? Aren't they?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you got to believe they are. But I tried to educate folks on it. I put up that general Slack message about privilege and about how please, and I push back on individuals. And people think, oh, they're helping me out. Oh, I took a crack at a response to these inquiries from our partner, or I took a crack at this contract. And typically, it just basically makes it more time consuming, not less. So I don't think it's that helpful when non-lawyers use these AI tools and try to give you a head start. Their heart's in the right place, but I don't like it. I think at the end of the day, if you're a good lawyer, you don't take a long time to review things. You zero in on the things that really matter, and you flag those for the business, and that's kind of what you do. AI can do that. It probably will get better at doing that. But I do think there's a a lawyer in the loop element that really should be there in a well-functioning company, is my opinion. Um,
For most contracts, which
yeah,
I agree, but the question is for most contracts,
for
for
most
all
kind.
contracts, for
No, of course we try to create templates. I mean, I try to make our templates as market friendly as possible, as
great.
balanced as possible. We do only mutual NDAs. So if we're willing to live it, you do it. So if they're willing to sign ours, of course I don't have to look at it. Our order form and our standard terms, you send that out. We don't have to look at it. But if they come back and they want to do all kinds of changes to it, we'll have to get involved. We have a agreement for our online marketplace where people get to participate. Here it is. Like, go sign up partners, put all the details on an exhibit, and leave the legal terms alone. We don't have to look at it. That's the way
Right.
I try to handle it. I don't want to get involved in every one of those little deals, but but basically we give them the tools and the agreement to do that. But we don't really have a robust like playbook, AI generated playbook, which will automatically say, oh, if they push back on this, do that, and this, do that. I think that takes a lot of time when you're small. It's almost like ironic about if you're really a small department, you don't have the time to do the things that'll give you more time.
Yeah.
That's
For sure.
that's
For
the
sure.
irony
For
of it.
sure. It is.
But
It's a double-edged sword.
yeah, it takes a lot of thought to build those things out in a way that can be used by non-lawyers in an intelligent way. And a lot of times, the fallback positions aren't well tailored to the issue that the person's raising, and it just ends up again causing friction and making
Right.
us look bad because you're sending me back something that didn't really that didn't really solve my problem.
Right.
Problem solvers. That's what we are. We're
That's what we
problem
are. So
solvers.
let me. So you're my favorite to disagree with because it's okay. But what I love about what you're saying, what makes you such a cool anomaly in the world that I see of all the spectrum of the lawyers and the professionals is I always put together those lawyers who like to use tech and AI as naturally more risk tolerant because you're already jumping in to give it some trusted amount of some amount of trust to do certain things on your behalf. You're still double checking, but it's letting go some control. And at the same time though, you're still like, yeah, but I still want to see everything, and this helps me be faster. So it's interesting because most lawyers will fall in one of the two camps and not both, right? It's like, I want to see everything. I'm not trusting AI. So they're,
Yeah.
or I'm all up in AI. Sure, there's a lot of risk I'm going to take. I'm fine with that. Which obviously, I would fall more into that
Right.
bucket. But I feel like you do this cool kind of, I'm going to straddle both. I'm a modern lawyer. I love AI. I will use AI to be super efficient, but I still want to see everything I want to see because
That's
I
right. It's a
trust.
trade-off, isn't it? I
It's
mean,
kind of a
if
trade-off.
you're gonna
Yeah.
say I want to see everything, you better turn those NDAs around in an hour, like not 3 days or not, weeks. So
I love it.
you gotta step up, and you gotta like
Okay.
be. I never want to be holding up the business. That's like something I hate to do. So I
Right.
want to be able to turn things around, and that's what AI enables me to do. Faster than I could before. So which is why I love it. Wanting to see everything. When I was a solo GC at my last position, and I wanted to see everything, it's exhausting. I mean, if you go on vacation, what do? You really can't go on vacation. The outside lawyers don't have any context for your day-to-day work, and it's really hard. So having a couple of people and AI tool, you can pretty much cover the ground and make sure there's
I
no
love it.
self-inflicted wounds or
Right.
foot faults that need to
Oh,
be
I love
avoided.
it. I mean, but okay, this is a great closing moment. Again, I knew this half hour would fly by. These always do, but especially I knew it with you as well. But I love this kind of point where you're saying, if you want to review everything, fine, you better be using AI to turn that NDA around in under an hour. And I think
Yeah,
that's the differentiator between modern lawyering, right, and not. So
yeah,
just because you're a modern lawyer doesn't mean you have to be comfortable assuming all types of risks. But if you're going to assume the risk of using an AI, tool, then that better benefit the business because you're going to be turning around contracts so fast because you still want to see everything. But you can't have it both. I think that's what makes it super interesting. I think your approach to it is a really healthy one because then it helps me give even a better response for those who are like, well,
right.
I want to see everything. What
But
CLM system should I buy? And I was like, well, hold on. Are you still going to see
yeah,
everything and
yeah,
not change how you review it? Then that worries me. But your point
yeah.
is you can see
But
it.
I see it. I see down the road, and I envision the time in which everything I do and everything I do in my department will be learned from to
Yeah.
such an extent that it will be able to do the reviews without me and get it right 95% of the time. Like that's the vision. Right now, everything's in a vacuum. You might have a playbook, you might have a skill or something that you've set up, or you might ask the
Right.
AI to compare it to your form. But that's
Right.
that's clunky. I wanted to
That's
learn
right.
from everything. You know, connected to the last 300, 400, 500 NDAs that I've done and all the different solutions that we've solved and the language variations and figure out what makes sense in this agreement. And, that should be doable. I mean,
Yeah.
if anything's doable, that should be doable. So I'm looking forward to that point. I just don't
Yeah.
think we're there.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining my
You're
little
welcome.
program, Jonathan. It was a pleasure. We're going to do it again because there's going to be more learnings 6 months from now. Tech's going to look completely different again. So I can't wait to
Yes.
check
We
back
know
in
it.
with you. All right. Thank you so much.
You,
Bye
my
for now.
pleasure. See you.